Welcome to episode 120 of Beyond the Brick. I'm Joshua Hanlon.
And I'm Matthew Kay.
And this episode of Beyond the Brick is brought to you by BrickFest Live. BrickFest Live will be held at the Meadowlands Expo Center in New Jersey, July 11th through 13th. And it is a public event with a focus on hands-on attractions such as the racetrack where you can build and race your custom-built Lego derby car down one of the 35-foot-long tracks. You can find more info at brickfestlive.com. And a quick Kickstarter project reminder here, our project is still going. There's only a week until Brickworld, so we're really excited for it. We still got some great castle builds from Alice Finch and David Frank, and a Batman comic by Paul Lee, plus some other great rewards you can get over there, obviously our DVD as well that we're creating. So definitely encourage you to check that out. I'll make sure to include a link to the project in the description of this video. Now, joining us on the show today, we have Dave Sterling, and he is 34 years old, an engineer at the Boeing Company, and he is a member of Virtual Lug and C-Lug. So it's awesome to have you on the show, Dave.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. Really excited to be a part of this.
No problem. And you want to start off by telling us a little bit about the lugs you're a part of? You can start off with Virtual Lug. They did that awesome display last year, the Wizard of Oz at Brickworld. Can you tell us anything about their display this year?
Oh, I wish I could, but I mean, we always keep it a secret right up until the event. So, when we start putting it together next Thursday morning, you guys will find out what the theme is this year. I mean, as always, we always like to tell a story. I mean, that's what our collabs are about at Brickworld. So, be ready for more of the same. Be ready for another story. And it is, it's not something where we've written our own backstory or anything. It is a piece of literature that's in the public domain. But be ready for something really interesting.
Mm-hmm. So a little bit of a teaser there. Definitely looking forward to the Virtual Lug display again. How did you come to join Virtual Lug?
That's an interesting story. So Virtual Lug was kind of. I used to live, prior to moving to Seattle, I lived out in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin, and we really didn't have, the nearest lug was 2.5 hours away, and it was really difficult for Stacy and I to actually get out and go to a lug meeting or interact with other Lego fans. So in 2008, I believe, we went to our first Brickworld, and we met up with some people, Chris Phipson in particular, Mark Kelso, Brian Bonahum, a lot of the current members of Virtual Lug, and we got to be really good friends with them. And we realized, when we came back from Brickworld after that, we kept in contact with them via email, phone calls, texts, things like that. And so the next year, Brickworld comes around, and we go back, and over the year, we've forged this better friendship. And we go back to Brickworld, and we have another great year in 2009. And we start talking about the fact that, hey, those guys really didn't have lugs that they belonged to either. And so it was one of those things where, like, it'd be kind of cool if we had a lug together. So then finally in 2010, it really started to gel. We had a lot of people there at Brickworld. I think the 2010 Brickworld, we had the most quote Virtual Lug members that we've ever had, and at the time we weren't even a lug. Basically at that point we got done with Brickworld that year, and I got home and said, guys, we need to make this official. We need to have an actual lug that we can call our own. And so everybody's, we're tossing around ideas about, well, okay, yeah, let's make a lug. What do we want to call ourselves? And the more we kicked it around, we're like, we're not your traditional, geography-based Lego user group. We're not C-Lug like Seattle Lug. We're not Shy Lug like, Chicago Lego user group. We're a virtual group, because we're all over the world. We're connected by the internet. So it became logical just to call ourselves Virtual Lug. And so I went and bought the domain, put up a forum, and that's pretty much, the forum was the initial place that we started working from.
Mm-hmm. So now the forum is kind of where you plan your projects for each year. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, we've got a private forum that the only way anybody can see anything on there is that it's they got to be logged in. So that's where we do all our planning. That's where we talk about lug bulk, because obviously if you're a lug, you get to participate in Lug Bulk. So, we organize Lug Bulk on the forum. We organize things like when people are traveling. A lot of the people in our lug happen to be business travelers, and so when we're shooting around the country or even around the world, we'll use the forum to say, hey, I'm going to be in this country. Does anybody want to hang out? Or I'm going to be in this city, in a couple weeks. Does anybody want to get together, have lunch? So we actually use that occasionally to coordinate visits outside of LEGO conventions.
That's pretty convenient, right? In a business or in a different city, hey, any LEGO guys want to meet up for lunch?
The weirdest one I've had is about 2 months ago. I was in Singapore for business, and I was getting ready. I was heading to the airport, and Ryan McNaught, who's a LEGO certified professional from Australia, sends me a note, and he's like, dude, I'm going to be in the Singapore airport in like an hour and a half. And he's like, when's your flight leave? And I said, it's about 10. Mine leaves at 10 o'clock at night. He's like, great, mine leaves at 9:45. I'll meet you at the Qantas Lounge, and let's go have a beer. So Ryan and I hooked up. We spent like 2.5 hours catching up, talking LEGO, drinking beer. It was awesome. And in all places, Singapore.
Wow. That's crazy. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that is by far the strangest LEGO person meetup I've ever had. So,
a truly international fan community, yeah.
Absolutely.
That's awesome that you can all connect like that, though. So then, when you lived you moved from Wisconsin to Seattle, is that right?
Yeah, about a year ago.
Were you part of any lug in Wisconsin before you moved?
Yeah, Stacy and I participated in Twin Lug, the Twin Cities LEGO user group. So that was kind of our, aside from Virtual Lug, that was our more local lug. And we would go up there maybe, I think we made probably 3 meetings a year or so. And we initially participated in Lug Bulk with them and contributed to some displays and things like that. But, once we formed Virtual Lug, there was less and less time to contribute to Twin Lug displays. So, we just started doing more of the Virtual Lug stuff.
What about Hot Lug?
What's that?
Hot Lug?
Oh my God! I completely forgot about Hot Lug. Wow, there's a blast from the past. So yeah, when Stacy and I, when we were living in the town we lived in was called Trempealeau, and we originally just the two of us, we were doing a train show in La Crosse. And they're like, we need a club name for you guys. We can't just call this Dave and Stacy's LEGO train display. So, Stacy and I are like, I don't know. I mean, we went with the first thing that came to mind, which was a geography-based name. And so that ended up being the Town of Trempealeau LEGO Users Group. And oddly enough, we found out later that Tod in German is something along the lines of death or something like that, which is, so it was very macabre, and and that fits in really well with, Stacy and I like some of the more macabre things she builds. If you've seen any of her builds, she builds a lot of like her haunted dollhouse, and she's done a lot of kind of horror themed stuff. So that it kind of was really fitting for us to have that as a name. But once we moved away from Trempealeau, that name kind of died. I mean, there's no use for it out here now.
So you kind of started your own little 2-person lug there with that.
Yep. The odd thing was, as soon as it was on the internet that we kind of had a lug, people would hit up my Flickr stream and see Tot Lug. I started getting Flickr mails for people that wanted to join the lug, and I'm like, guys, this really isn't it's not a real lug. Yeah. Like, I swear, it's not a real lug. We're just kind of, we're just here. It's just us.
Very cool. So, how did you play with Lego as a kid? Then you're an engineer at Boeing, so I'd imagine that definitely affects your how you build, and definitely as a kid, was that something you always was like a Boeing engineer, something like that, something like dream job for you?
Yeah, totally. I've wanted to work for Boeing since I was a kid. It was took my first airplane ride, I think, in like 1990 or 91. It was a Piper Cherokee with a guy that went to my church, and I've loved airplanes my entire life. Since I was a kid, I've always looked towards the sky, and it was just one of those things that I always wanted to work for an aircraft manufacturer, and in particular Boeing, just because of the legacy that they have here in the United States. I mean, and really the world. I mean, they build, and I may be a little biased here, but we build the best airplanes in the world, and so that's something I'd always wanted to do. So getting to come out here and have that as a job and work for that company, every time I walk through the factory up in Everett, where we build our twin aisle aircraft like the 747, 787, and the 777, it doesn't matter how many times I go there, I am consistently in awe of what we do up there. So it's absolutely a dream job. And as far as Lego, I started playing with Lego when I was, best I can remember, is like 4 or 5 years old. My mom bought me a bunch of the classic town sets. First one I can remember building is there was a bulldozer set, and that's the one that I really remember as being like my first set that I built. But growing up, I collected primarily town. I mean, I was not a castle guy. I had a few classic space sets. Didn't have any of the pirate stuff. So really just solid town, pretty much leading up to my dark age.
Did you have a fairly significant dark age, or did that not last very long?
It was quite a while. I mean, we moved from so when I was a kid, my dad was really cool, and he built me a 4x8 table in the basement where I could have my entire town set up. And so when we were living in Illinois, I had this awesome town setup, which was fantastic. And then when we moved to Wisconsin when I was about 14, our house no longer had a basement, and there was really nowhere to set the Lego up. And so basically we arrived in Wisconsin. It was in a box. And, of course, you turn 14, and all of a sudden, girls are more interesting, and sports are more interesting, and cars are more interesting. And so, with those other things competing for my attention, mostly girls, I just didn't have the time. I never had the inkling to actually pull the Lego out of the storage closet. So it pretty much stayed there until I got married when I was 22. So about 8 years.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's kind of your significant dark age there a little bit, but you got back into it. Now, did you and Stacy build a lot together? I know, like you mentioned, she's done a lot of great builds. Did she build when you first met her, or is that something you guys have kind of worked on as you've been married?
Yeah, she didn't. We never really talked about Lego. Obviously, it never came up when we were dating. Once we got married, we bought a house and we had a basement. So it was like, oh, I've got a basement now. This is kind of cool. And one day my mom called and she said, hey, we're cleaning the house out. Your Lego, we found a couple boxes here that have your Lego stuff in it. Do you want this? Because if you don't, it's going to Goodwill or it's going in a garage sale or something like that. And I'm like, no, don't throw it out. Don't throw it out. So I drove down there, I think, either the same day or the very next day, picked it up, brought it home, and Stacy and I immediately went down the basement, dumped out the box, and started putting together sets, mainly because I wanted to see, okay, it's been 8 years since I've had this stuff. It's made the move from Illinois to Wisconsin and then to another house in Wisconsin. So, how much have we lost? What's actually still here? And so we started building those sets to figure out if we were missing pieces, and we found out that building together was something we really enjoyed. So then, of course, I had to recreate the childhood, so I went and bought a 4x8 sheet of plywood, and I built myself a table and put the town up, and gradually from that 4x8 table, it's blown up into something that I don't even have room for anymore.
Do you guys buy a lot of sets, or how have you built your collection over the years?
We've kind of done everything. I mean, I've done everything from buying at garage sales, buying like some kid's complete collection because he wants to buy a PlayStation. I put up signs at work that say, we buy Lego, and people will bring in their kid's collection and say, I just want this out of the house. Here, take it. One of my friends just sold me his kid's collection because he has to pay for braces for his kid. So he sold me his Lego collection to buy his kid braces. And
It's
we've done
the straight teeth of the bricks.
exactly. I told him your kid's got crooked teeth because he hasn't been using a brick separator. So, but yeah, we've done eBay. I've done Bricklink. We've done Lug Bulk, and then yes, I buy a ton of sets. I am a total sucker for sets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's kind of unusual. It seems like most builders we have on usually say they aren't that interested in sets. Maybe they buy a few for pieces every once in a while, but it's mostly Bricklink. But you find that buying the sets is a lot of fun for you still?
I just love them, and I'll buy multiple copies. I mean, I was just at the Lego store last night, and I bought two of Benny's spaceship. So, I mean, it's things like that. You know, I definitely don't go out and buy every set, but there's a lot of themes and a lot of sets that I really enjoy. I'll bring them home, I'll put them together once, and then part them out. There's very few that I actually keep together. The few I can think of right now that are actually together in the basement, I think the Cafe Corner is still up. I think I have the Fire Brigade and the Green Grocer are still intact. The Haunted Mansion from Monster Fighters, and then there's a couple train sets that are still hanging out that are up. But other than that, I mean, once I build them once, usually I'll tear them apart and part it into the collection.
Mm-hmm. So you keep some of those great modulars around.
Absolutely. Stacy and I love the modular buildings, and they fit in really well. You know, we've got our steampunk town that we've done, and the aesthetic that Jamie's been able to put together with those buildings, it actually fits really well with the old town London, or kind of a more European looking town. So they've integrated well into our display. And I like to be able to, at conventions, when somebody comes up and goes, "Wow, those buildings are incredible," and I can say, "Well, yeah, I built this one, but if you want to get started right now, you can go down to the store. You can buy this set right here, Palace Cinema, Parisian Restaurant, and you can go build that yourself, and basically use that to start learning how to build these buildings."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it works really well for that. So
yeah, we found people really get a kick out of that, and because they don't see those sets in Target, it's one of those things where when you tell them, "Hey, you can go get this and you can build this yourself," they get really excited, and hopefully that turns into a trip to the Lego store for them.
Definitely, that's the end goal a lot of the time. Get to the Lego store.
Absolutely.
For sure. Well, now I think we'll talk about some of your builds. You've built a lot of really cool stuff, and some of the stuff related to Brickworld we'll definitely be talking about later as well. One build I wanted to talk about right now is some micro Moonbase work that you've been doing recently. So what got you into this?
Actually, Lee Ward was the person who got me into this. He has come to BrickCon the past few years, and I think I want to say he might bring his micro Moonbase to Brick World occasionally. But it's been coming to BrickCon, and every year he's been telling me, "Dave, you got to build for this. You got to build for this. It's super easy." And after last year's BrickCon, I was kind of I had some builder's block. I couldn't really, figure out anything to do, and I had a piece of paper with the standards for the micro Moonbase on it, and I'm looking at it and I'm going, "Yeah, this is something I can probably bang out in a night or maybe 2 nights, so I'll give it a shot." And it turned out that it was really, really a fun thing to build. I mean, it doesn't use a lot of pieces, but you can cram a lot of detail in a small space, and it's something that, if you want, you could do a really, really cool space layout with, a 30 by 30 piece of space. So there's not a lot of, you don't need a lot of real estate for this, and since I'm running out of real estate, to display stuff at home, micro Moonbase kind of made a lot of sense. That, and I want to have something to show Lee this year at BrickCon. He's gonna kill me if I don't.
Gotta have at least something to show him. But yeah, this is a great build. I love the classic space look of it. Were there any favorite parts you had while you were building this, or any parts uses that you found were really cool?
The big thing that I guess the thing that I loved a lot is when I was looking at how they do the corridors, how the I guess the cheat sheet on what the modular standard is. When I was looking at how they did the corridors, it typically would use just a standard 2x2 round brick. And so I thought the 2x2 rounds with the profile on the side, they gave it a little more of an industrial look, and something they just added a little bit of texture to those corridors that I thought would be really cool. The other thing is, obviously when you're out in space, you have to terminate all those corridors in some way. And I thought the 2x2 plate, the kind of boat, I guess, I don't even know what that thing's called, but the half moon kind of looking plate on the end, I thought those in clear to kind of give you a window at the end of the corridor. I thought that would be kind of neat. So those were kind of on that build. Those are probably the two things that I did that I hadn't seen done before on a micro Moonbase module that I really liked the addition of.
And I think those are the parts that kind of first caught my eye when I looked at it too. So can we expect more of this type of build from you in the future?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. I have another one that I haven't taken pictures of yet, and I'm planning to build more. I want to, Lee's giving an award this year for best micro Moonbase module, and on the one hand, I may be the only person besides him to actually contribute one, which would, maybe improve my chances of winning that award. But I definitely want to build a bunch of stuff so I can show up and just really help him beef that display up. And if I can convince any of you, listeners, viewers out there to contribute as well, obviously it's an open collaboration at BrickCon, so, grab the Micro Moonbase standard and off the internet and, build a module and bring it to BrickCon, because I'm sure Lee would love to have more.
Mm-hmm. The more the merrier, so yeah, more builds like this definitely would be very cool. We'll look forward to seeing some more from you in the future.
Yep.
And so the next build I wanted to talk about here, make sure we covered, was another really interesting build, and this is connected to Brickworld in a really cool way that I think we'll cover here, and this is your Lord Sterling's Blunderbuss. So you want to tell us a little bit about this and the story behind this in Brickworld?
Sure. So the build itself was conceived. Guy Himber built a couple of really cool steampunk rifles, and then Tommy Williamson built an amazing steampunk pistol. And so I was looking at those, and Stacy and I are into the steampunk genre. We actually participate in the steampunk community and everything. And when I saw Tommy and Guy's builds, I wanted to do something, really cool like that. And so this piece, I wanted something that I could display, that could go up on my mantle over the fireplace, and really be kind of a centerpiece in the room. And so I started working on this, and interestingly enough, this thing went through about probably 2 or 3 different revisions where I would get feedback on the Virtual Lug forum. I would post pictures, people would critique, and actually it started out as a completely different color scheme than this. There was actually a lot of dark green for a while in it. And so eventually I settled on this, and it turned out really, exactly how I wanted it. It was something that I was really proud to put on the mantle back in Wisconsin. After moving to Seattle, I don't actually have a mantle over my fireplace now, so I have nowhere to display this thing. And luckily, Simon Liu came to the rescue. A lot of people probably heard of the red paperclip game. Are you guys aware of that?
But of course.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you take something of intrinsically low value, you trade it up, and eventually you end up with a house or something like that. So Mark Larson challenged Simon last year to basically start with a red 2x4 brick, the most basic element in the Lego palette, and trade it up and see what he could get. And initially, Simon started trading for some things, and if you look at I think the progression is on the Brothers Brick. They've got a listing of kind of how Simon's trades progress. But initially he traded for some things that weren't all that much higher value than the 2x4 brick. But then as he kept going, people, whether it was out of the goodness of their heart or because they wanted to get rid of something, they started trading away larger items. And eventually, Simon's initial thing was he was going to trade stuff for something that he was going to keep. And as he started to get more valuable items, he realized he could give back to the community by actually getting something, that people would, potentially want to buy and donating that to the charity auction. And throughout the thing, people tried to give Simon money, and that really doesn't work in the nature of the game. So he just kept working trades, and eventually he came to me and said, Dave, I want your guns. And I'm like, you want both of them? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I want the little pistol, and I want the blunderbuss. And I'm like, all right, well, what do you got for me? And he goes, well, I've got a sealed grand carousel. And that sounds pretty good, right? That's not bad. And I'm like, Simon, I got 3 of those at home. I don't need them. So he's like, all right. He's like, what's it going to take to pry this thing out of your hands? And I said, honestly, I want a mock. I want something from another builder that I admire. And I want something that I can take home, I can put on a shelf, and I can be like, no, I didn't build that, but this really awesome builder I know did. And so Simon's like, okay, well, what do you want? And so I kind of wandered around the Brickworld Convention Hall for a little while, and I actually identified 3 mocks that I was interested in. And one was Ben Calkins' Normandy. One was Imagine Rigney's Bird of, oh god, it's from BioShock, and I can't even remember what the name of it is.
Okay, I remember that build.
Yeah, I want to say it's Bird of Prey, but that's a Star Wars thing, but or a Star Trek thing. Anyway, the build that Imagine did with the really cool steampunk-looking bird, I wanted that. And then the third thing was Chris Rozek's base, Rickenbacker base, from the anime Fooly Cooly. And it's actually a life-size base, and it has steel rods down the neck of the base, so you can actually lift the thing above your head and swing it, just like Haruko does in the anime. So I said, Simon, go. And Simon's right at that point. Simon's looking at me, going, seriously, like, you really think I can pull that off? And I'm like, dude, I got faith in you. You can do it. Just go. And so he went out and he worked on it, and he was gonna. I don't know whether he never told me whether he approached either Ben or Imagine on their mocks, but either way, he showed up about 2 hours later, and he's like, okay, man, it took everything I had, but I got you the base. And I'm like, all right. I'm like, you can have the guns then. So I'm pretty stoked. It's I'm looking forward to picking up my new base at Brickworld this year, and even more so, I'm really excited that the Blunderbuss is going into the charity auction, and then the pistol actually. So when I gave those to Simon, he got the Blunderbuss, and he got my Entropic Molecule Disruptor. And the Molecule Disruptor is the little pistol, and that actually got traded to Isaac Mazer for his Dark Side of the Moon mosaic. And so now the Dark Side of the Moon mosaic and the Blunderbuss will go into the Brickworld charity auction this year, and I'm really excited to see how much each of those bring in.
Very cool. That's awesome. I thought that was so cool, and Simon started doing that, and now that it's ended here, and like you said, you get the charity auction going, so you can raise some money there. That's really awesome.
Yeah, I'm stoked. There's a couple things here. I mean, the first of all, it is really an honor to have someone come up and say, they want something of yours, and then for Simon to feel that particular piece would bring a reasonable amount of money in the charity auction and would be something worthy of going into the charity auction. I mean, that's one of the biggest compliments a builder can give another builder. So for that, I'm just blown away that Simon wanted to do that, and I'm really, I'm indebted to him for taking on what was actually a pretty difficult thing for him to do, to go around, and he spent a lot of time at Brickworld last year doing this. So I just think that's amazing. He's an incredible person, incredible community member. There's just not a lot of guys like him in the community. So.
No, there are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's for sure. And I guess this would be a good time to give a shout out to him actually for the frog pods that he made as a stretch goal for our Kickstarter project. So if you've supported that, you'll get those as one of the stretch goals there. So you can look forward to those as well from Simon.
Oh, sweet! I can't wait. I'm super excited. And any of the people, any viewers who have not supported the Kickstarter, make sure you go out there and support the Kickstarter.
Oh yeah,
is
definitely.
The omnipresent doer of good. He's everywhere.
Sometimes it feels like that for sure. And now the one final build I wanted to make sure we covered here that what you actually said was one of your favorites from all the builds you've done throughout the years. And this is your NES build that you did. This is like the full NES here. So what makes this stand out for you?
So this is the first build that I did that when it was finished, I felt like I really accomplished something. You know, I built this a few years ago for the Mock Olympics on Mock Pages, and it was my second to last round build. So it was the build that got me into the finals. But more than that, once this thing was built, it showed up on Kotaku the next day. And people were just going crazy over it. And then like a week later, I got a call from Nintendo Power Magazine, and they wanted to do a story on it. And then like a month and a half after that, I got a call from Nintendo Marketing, and they wanted to commission Stacy and I to build a piece for them. And ultimately, we ended up not doing that job because our quote was more than their marketing department had. But you know, this build kind of, for me, this was, I guess, the first build of mine that actually got some serious recognition from, you know, beyond the LEGO community. It actually got, you know, my name, so to speak, out there into pop culture. And that was really exciting for me. And not only that, but I mean, the 8-bit NES, I mean, it was the first gaming system I had. I spent hours playing that thing as a kid. I'm a big gamer. Stacy works for Nintendo now, so you know, this one's kind of, you know, it's pretty near and dear to my heart. That I was, and being able to capture it in one-to-one scale. I mean, pretty much every dimension on that piece is within a 16th of an inch to an 1/8 of an inch of the actual console. So, you know, it was something that to be able to capture that scale and to make it look, you know, to make people have to look at it twice and go, wait a minute, is that real or is that Lego? That was totally fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is a great build, and it's cool how you were saying that the scale is so almost perfect like that. That makes it even cooler that it's so lifelike.
Engineering nerd for life.
That's what you get when you combine the engineering skills with your gaming.
Absolutely.
So were there any? I know this build's a few years old. Were there any part usages in this or anything like that as you were building it you found were really neat?
So a couple things. The power and reset buttons in it actually work, and they've got the Technic shock absorber spring behind them, and they're actually set where you know, you can push them in, and they move back and forth, and they provide resistance when you push them in. In fact, the resistance, oddly enough, feels very similar to what the initial NES buttons were like. So that was pretty cool to be able to do that. Beyond that, you know, it used a lot of basic brick. I mean, it was just a lot of inverted slopes, a lot of gray brick, a lot of gray plate and tile. It really, you know, from I guess NPU, there wasn't that much. It was just more about trying to capture the shape and figuring out, you know, what basic brick types could capture the accurate shape of the console and the cartridge and, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, I guess that's a good example that you don't have to have a lot of brilliant part uses to make a really cool build like that.
Yeah, I mean, I get a kick out of, you know, I see a lot of, and TFOLs do this really well. I see TFOLs that come up with the most amazing connections where they'll take two parts and connect them together somehow, and I'm just like, how the hell did they do that? Or how did they come up with that? And it's that's super impressive to me, and I think it's just amazing. But by the same token, you look at the stuff that like Sean Kinney and Nathan Sueya do, and all of that's basic brick. So it's really, you can have everything from like the exosuit that's coming out on Lego Ideas here in a few months that has just incredible technical parts usage, really crazy connections, things like that. And then you can have something with as simple a brick as stuff Sean or Nathan or some of the other LCPs do, and both of those can be incredible works of art.
Mm-hmm. For sure, yeah, that's a really good point, that you can take any type of brick and make a really cool build out of it.
It's all what you put into it. It's all your creativity level, and your connection with the brick.
Oh yeah, for sure. So do you have any major projects planned for the future then? Any builds you've been wanting to do here recently?
Yeah, Stacy and I are working on. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Animal Crossing. It's a Nintendo game. It features little animals, and you're the mayor of a town, and you kind of build your town, and I don't know. It's like combining. It's kind of like The Sims, but with animals, and probably a little bit less adult humor. But it's a really cool game, and Stacy and I decided we wanted to build an entire map and Animal Crossing city. So right now we're in the process of putting that together, and hopefully, fingers crossed, it'll be ready for BrickCon. We'll see. I've got about three. I have to build 54 base plates worth of terrain and stuff like that, and I've got 3 done so far. So I've got a long way to go, but hopefully Stacy will help me here eventually.
Collaboration.
Good out for you there.
She's not in the background anymore. But yeah, we're working on that. Trying to think what else. I've got some space builds I want to do. I kind of was working on a space layout for a while, and I put that aside, and so I want to do just kind of some, classic Space Police, classic Space, Blacktron, kind of, that type of stuff. So that's, in the works. And then the other thing I'm working on is I'm really inspired by Ian Heath's Bricks of Character builds, all the different pop culture stuff he does. And so I'm trying to kind of stretch my skill level. I've never done characters in the scale that Ian does, and so I'm taking a stab at that. And right now I'm working on some of the characters from Okami-san and Seven Companions. It's an anime, and so I want to start doing more Bricks of Character stuff, just because. Mainly, I want to try and stretch my what I can build. I'm traditionally a town and train guy, so and I usually build minifig scale. So I want to kind of stretch what I do a little bit more.
It's always good to get out of that bubble. I know. I fall into that bubble. It's so bad. Like just all town buildings all the time. Yeah, important to get out and do something else.
Well, it's hard to break out of the comfort zone. I mean, that's something, in Virtual Lug, we've actually done a couple competitions just on our forum where, it's all about breaking out of the comfort zone. It's all about building something that you don't normally build. And I think for a lot of builders, that's a real challenge, but if you really push yourself to do it, I feel like you learn a lot about, how to build, because, every genre of building uses different techniques, different parts, different colors. So it's a great way to I guess get a little more connected with some of the other pieces that maybe you don't normally use.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned you're going to be at Brickworld and BrickCon this year. Are there any other shows or conventions people can find you at?
Not really. I mean, those are kind of our 2 major ones. I don't have a whole lot of vacation, so it's kind of like, BrickCon is easy because it's in town. Brickworld is obviously my big convention because I've got coordinator duties there, and then also, it's the primary meeting for Virtual Lug each year. So, going back to Brickworld is always, it's something I got to do. Aside from that, you might find me at San Diego Comic-Con this year, wandering around in the crowd. Don't know yet. That's still up in the air, but I may try and get down there for the weekend and check it out. But if I do that, it'll just be as a fan, not displaying anything. So. Now,
have you been to Comic-Con in the past? I'd be interested. Have you tried it? I know there's always the Usually there's some major problems with the Lego-related stuff through the way they give that out and everything. I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
I haven't. I've never been to I've never been to San Diego Comic-Con. I've never been to Emerald City Comic-Con or New York. Stacy went to WonderCon this year down in Anaheim and said it was a really cool time. That's kind of a WonderCon is put on by the same company that does SDCC, and she said it was really, really well done. So I'm kind of hoping she has to go to SDCC this year, because if she does, that'll kind of kick me to go.
It's a business
So
trip.
we'll see if she exactly. See, that would be wonderful. But we'll see what happens. I think it'd be cool to go down to SDCC. I've had a lot of friends that have gone from Lagola down in LA, and they say it's just incredible. It's you kind of got to go and experience it once.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know everybody that goes says it is really incredible there, but it does seem like the Lego troubles seem to just get worse every year there, unfortunately.
And it's got to be, I imagine this year it will be even worse than last year, because you look at the popularity of the Lego Movie and you look at the popularity of Lego in general over the past 6 to 12 months. I mean, it's probably just gone exponential. So everybody, Lego is going to be something that everybody wants to get when they go to SDCC this year. So I imagine it's just only going to be way worse than it has been in the past. But maybe Kevin Hinkle can prove me wrong.
Yeah.
Hopefully, that would be the hope there. Now, something interesting we were talking about before the show was you actually own your own plane, and obviously you are an engineer at Boeing as well. Have you ever flown to any Lego conventions, or how does that work?
I have not flown to a Lego convention yet. We talked about it. There were, prior when we were living back in Wisconsin and going to Brickworld, it was about a 4.5-hour drive from our house to Brickworld, and the flight would have been hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. So it totally crossed our mind that, hey, we should fly to Brickworld one of these days. And the problem was the airplane never had enough carrying capacity to be able to hold all the stuff we were going to bring to Brickworld. So it never, unfortunately, it never happened. And now to fly to Brickworld, I just actually finished a cross-country trip from Wisconsin out here to Seattle, and it was about 16 hours of flight over the course of 2 days. And that's just way too long to fly to Brickworld. So
Oh God, yeah.
gonna have to suck it up and fly commercial.
Just wait until you can afford the private jet. When you got the Gulfstream, Dave, then Brickworld is within your reach.
I keep asking Boeing if I can just borrow a 787 business jet, but for some reason they just haven't tossed me the keys yet.
God.
Maybe one day, eventually. That'll be the convention. Everybody, you can fly in on your jet there.
See, for that convention, I'll be able to go around, pick everybody in Virtual Lug up, and then we'll just all arrive at the convention on the airplane.
That sounds like a plan to me. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I think now to finish out the interview, do you ever have a dream Lego set that you've wanted Lego to produce over the years? Have you thought of one that you think would be really cool?
The one thing that I would love to see, I'm a massive vintage aircraft fan, and so is Stacy. So we'd love to see a line of vintage aircraft, like, from the 20s through maybe the early 50s. So you'd have things like the cabin Waco biplanes or the Sesquiplanes, which were Sesquiplanes were basically halfway between a biplane and a monoplane. They would have a large top wing and then a smaller bottom wing. So there's some really cool cabin Wacos out there. You've got the Boeing Stearmans that were the trainers for World War II, T-6 Texans. You've got the Piper Cub, kind of the venerable airplane that everybody knows about. If you own an airplane, you either own a Piper Cub or a Cessna 172. There is no other airplane as far as the general public is concerned. So, the Cub would be way cool. There's just a lot of really, really neat vintage aircraft. I'd love to see a kind of a model team, or like the Sopwith Camel that they did. I'd love to see that kind of scale, but more airplanes. That's probably the thing that would be like a real dream for me. For a while, it was a new classic space set, but we just got that. So
We did.
So thank you, Lego. You made my dream come true, and I had to find a new one.
So now it's a whole airplane line. I think that would be pretty cool, and I think a fair amount of people would find those pretty interesting sets.
Yeah, I wonder. I mean, it could be something that's really niche. I don't know. Not knowing how things like the Wright Flyer, the Sopwith Camel, and the Boeing 787 models, not knowing how those really did sales wise, I have no clue whether it would be something that people would get a kick out of. I mean, if it was done right, it could be something that people, engineers or business people would have an interest in putting on their desk at work, kind of like the Lego architecture stuff. But you never know until they try putting something like that out.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's definitely one of those things we can keep dreaming about it until hopefully one day it's released.
Exactly. Well, and Lego continues to surprise me. I mean, the Benny spaceship, that thing came out of nowhere. That was something that I was shocked that they put that out. So, all those things, maybe there's still hope for monorail to come back. Or even Fabulous.
Never know.
Or even the right shade of.
Oh man, yeah, that. We can always hope, right?
Yeah, I think so. But I think that's definitely something to look forward to, hopefully in the future. And it was great having you on, Dave. Really enjoyed talking with you some more. I'll look forward to seeing you at Brickworld. What's the best place for people to keep up to date with what you're doing?
Best thing is hit up my Flickr photo stream. It's, I think, basically Totlug still. I haven't been able to change the username. I changed my name on Flickr to Lord Sterling, but I haven't been able to get rid of the Totlug thing. So yeah, check me out on Flickr. Hit me up on Facebook. Those are probably the best places. Every once in a while I'll drop by Eurobricks or something like that, but my online time there is kind of limited these days. I have just way too much other stuff going on. So but yeah, hit me up on Flickr, and I promise I will try and start taking pictures and posting more stuff. Seattle's kind of an awesome city. There's a lot to do here, and I really, spent way more time experiencing the city than actually photographing mocks like I probably should be.
Oh yeah. I'm sure that can become all too easy to do in a city like Seattle. So we'll look forward to seeing some more stuff from you in the future, though, and I'll make sure to include links to your Flickr page and your Facebook in the description, so everybody can check those out easily and start following you there.
Very cool. I look forward to seeing you guys at Brickworld. It's going to be a great time.
Oh yeah, definitely. And like I said, it's only a week away, Brickworld, so I definitely encourage you to subscribe to the YouTube page here. You don't want to miss all of our awesome coverage that we'll be putting out over the week of Brickworld and then the weeks following as well. We'll be releasing a bunch of videos and interviews. You might even see some stuff with Dave there with some of his builds. So you never know what we'll be putting out there. I definitely encourage you to subscribe and keep up to date with everything we're doing here at Beyond the Brick. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next week.